Dad insists on watching baby by himself, regrets it. He'd always wanted to lend a hand when taking care of their son. Now that his wife was gearing up for her first day back to work, he knew his time had come. She left him clear instructions about taking care of their toddler, instructions which he quickly dismissed, stating that he had everything under control. He would soon find out how wrong he was. Taking care of kids is something most people relegate to the women and girls in their families. It is usually rare to find cases where men step up to fully take care of babies while having their wives, daughters, sisters, nannies, or moms around. In these cases, these men usually do a great job at watching over the kid, but only because they listen to and emulate advice from the women in their lives. Frank Bateman's story would be different. When Frank married Chelsea, he knew he'd found the love of his life. They had a perfect home in Tennessee and great careers, and after a year together, Chelsea became pregnant with their first baby, Josh. For Frank, having a big family was something he'd always dreamed of. So when he found out he was gonna be a dad, he was beside himself with joy. He had no clue how fatherhood would change his perspective on life. Frank's life had always been an adventure. He'd been through a lot by his 30s, having served in 5 tours in the military and jump-starting a career in architecture. Frank's wife had also been through a lot. When Frank met her, she'd been a fledgling in the real estate world, but she'd gradually made a name for herself as one of the best agents in their town. Despite their accomplishments, this couple always supported each other in everything they did. This dynamic would threaten their son's very life. When Chelsea had Josh, both she and Frank took leaves from their respective offices to watch over the baby. The journey through pregnancy, delivery, and the first few months with Josh was unlike nothing the two had ever experienced. But as the days turned into months, a reality that the couple couldn't deny was slowly looming closer. It was soon becoming clear that the couple would need to report to work soon. The thought was paralyzing enough, and the two knew they had to devise a plan or lose their minds. Frank suggested having one of their relatives over to watch Josh, but Chelsea reminded him that their families were busy with their lives on the West Coast. They considered many other options, landing on one they'd been sitting on since the discussion began. Frank and Chelsea considered hiring a nanny, which they quickly ruled off because of an unfortunate incident involving a lousy caregiver in their neighborhood. They couldn't trust the life of their little angel in anybody's hands. Frank suggested something he knew would work. Since his job rarely demanded him to make office visits, he could work from home and take care of Josh while Chelsea was at the office. The idea seemed great on paper, but little did Frank know what a disaster it would end in. The couple discussed the idea and got a plan rolling. Chelsea tried to explain everything about taking care of a baby to Frank, but he grinned and insisted he'd been learning for the past 16 months. Regardless of her husband's confidence, Chelsea pressed on leaving a feeding and sleeping schedule for him to follow and left for work. She wasn't gone for an hour when all hell broke loose. Chelsea had left for a mere 40 minutes when little Josh began crying. Concerned by the toddler's distress, Frank quickly rushed to his room and took him out of his crib. He cradled and lulled him for a second, only to realize the angel's diaper was full. Frank set the baby down, knowing a quick diaper change would fix the problem. It was then that he realized a terrible mistake. Although he'd always been around when Chelsea changed Josh, Frank had never really done it himself. He unfurled the diaper and stared unknowingly at the mess, wishing he'd listened to his wife's instructions when she offered them. He tried to recall what she always did. Before cleaning Josh, he needed to cover the diaper-changing surface with a disposable liner. He quickly got to work, not knowing that everything about to go south. Frank carried Josh to the bed quickly so he could get to changing his diaper. He wasn't even halfway through when the unexpected happened. Josh had been lying there smiling at him when he suddenly shot a pea spray onto his father's chest. He laughed as Frank jumped back, totally caught off guard by the assault. But such a harmless act would threaten to claim Josh's life. Frank hurried up clean pee with a wet wipe but forgot that he'd left Josh in his soiled diaper on the bed. Although the dad didn't walk out of the room to clean himself, he forgot one integral rule Chelsea always talked about when it came to Josh. Never take your eyes off him when he is awake. Something urged Frank to turn around, and as he did, he caught Josh knee walking to the edge of the bed. Frank lunged for the baby, who was keen to see what was on the other side of the mammoth bed his dad had laid him on. Or perhaps he wanted to help Frank wipe off the pee as a sorry. Frank was still rushing to him when he tipped over the bed's edge. Frank's hand caught Josh right before he connected with the ground. The baby laughed, delighted at the little adventure. He cooed at his dad, his bright eyes gleaming with love. Frank's heart was pounding within him, his hold around Josh's torso and head towing the line between being firm and gentle. But then he noticed another thing he had forgotten about. Frank's eye took in the mess Josh had made from the center of the bed to its edge. But he couldn't care less as his heart warmed with the relief of having caught him at the right moment. He didn't know what he would have done if his little angel got hurt. He told Chelsea about the situation when she came home. Although he'd changed Josh and cleaned their bedroom, he knew he'd forever listen and cherish his wife's advice.